please. Please unmute your video for photo session. Participants are requested to please unmute your video for photo snap. Yeah, thank you, sir. Kumar sir, Palani Kumar sir. Others, please. Pradeep Kumar sir, please unmute your video to take a photo snap. Unmute your video, sir, to take. Yeah, thank you, sir, Pradeep Kumar sir. Others, please.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. Nice to see you, sir. Others, please unmute your video to take a photo snap. Yeah, others. Prashant, sir. Yeah, thank you, sir. Prashant, sir. Others, please switch on your video to take a photo snap. Thank you, Suman, sir. Others, please switch on your video to take photo snap. Participants, please unmute your video. Yeah, thank you, Professor. Others, Navya madam, please. Participants are requested to unmute your video for 1 minute so that we can take photo snap. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Please mute your video. Thank you. Please mute your video. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Go. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Please mute your video. Thank you. Yeah. So wait for 1 minute, sir. Sir is ready so that we can start the day 5 session 1. Good morning, participants. Today is the last day. It is day 5. First session we have IoT protocols by Dr. J. Srikanth sir, and second session by Mr. P. Rajkumar sir and Arjun Watson, speech to text, text to speech. And afternoon 3 to 4 we have valedictory followed by test. After that we need to give college feedback, that is Google form will be shared in our group. You have to give this feedback as well as Atal portal feedback. If you give these two feedbacks only, you will get certificate. So don't forget this one. Yeah, test is mandatory. That is in between 3 to 4. Everyone should attend. Everyone should write that test. If you pass that test only, you will get a certificate. Here the three things to get the certificate. One is test you have to write, that is in between 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. and you need to give feedback, our college feedback, that is we will share Google Form link in our group. And finally, you need to give Atal portal feedback. You need to log into your Atal account, that is Atal AICT Atal account is there, right? You need to log in into that, and then you need to give feedback there. Then only you will get certificate within 24 hours. Okay. Any doubts regarding this certificate, you can ask me. You can contact me. Not a problem. Okay. Is it clear, participants? Okay. So, once again, welcome back to day 5, session 1 by Dr. J. Srikanth sir. Before hand over to the session to Dr. J. Srikanth sir, I'll introduce him. Sir completed PhD from IIT Dhanbad in 2017. Masters, that is MTech in Network Engineering from the National Institute of Engineering, Mysore in 2018, and BTech from Computer Science Engineering from JNTH Hyderabad in 2005. Sir, presently working as professor at Vagdev Engineering College, Bollikunta, Warangal. Sir given several talks in various international conferences as invited speaker, served as a technical advisory committee member for various international conferences such as ICMLC 2017, and sir served as a reviewer for various Web of Science journals such as Wireless Personal Communications, Springer, Soft Computing, Springer and Computer and Electrical Engineering, and various reputed international conferences, and a recipient of 5 Web of Science journals and 7 conferences proceedings. And sir, research areas interests include wireless sensor networks, design and analysis of algorithms, Internet of Things, and information retrieval systems. I welcome you, sir. Please, over to you, sir. Please take over the session. Sir, are you there, sir?
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your wonderful introduction.
Thank you, sir.
A very
Sir,
good morning, sir,
Your voice
and
is
all the participants.
too low, sir. Participants, are you clearly audible? Yeah.
Is it okay, sir?
Yeah, yes, now it's okay, sir. Please proceed.
So, thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thanks for welcoming me. Uh, Good morning, all the participants. Uh, I got a wonderful opportunity to share my knowledge, little amount of knowledge with you uh, on the occasion of FDP on Internet of Things. So let me share my presentation. So is it audible to all the participants?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Your voice is audible.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it visible now, the presentation?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Visible.
Yeah. Yeah. We are going to discuss about the Internet of Things protocols and some use cases we'll discuss. My presentation for today morning session is going as follows. The overview of my presentation is first we'll spend some time on introduction to IoT. Of course, the introduction has been given by the so many number of speakers on in this FTP, and under introduction to IoT, we are going to discuss about what is IoT network architecture and design. What is IoT network architecture and design? Uh, Designing IoT networks, how to, uh, what do we call smart objects? Which thing we are going to take it as a smart object, and how to connect them irrespective of their operating systems. And mm, after getting the smart objects and how to make some connections or hardware connections, which protocols we are using to operate all the IoT networks. So few protocols that I would like to discuss with you. And after that, I would like to uh, introduce my research work on industrial IoT, which we have doing in our institute. Okay, let me begin with the evolutionary phase of the Internet of Things. What is the necessity of that? And what are the phases we have passed to reach the Internet of Things? Whether we are so exponentially developing in terms of internet or digitized world. Um, so, what is IoT? Just a small and interesting definition for the IoT is connect the unconnected. Okay, we think that so many objects we think that so many objects may not be connected to the internet, like your home needs, like sorry, home utilizers, like bulbs, fans, and all. But now they are also connected to the internet, and they have become the smart objects. Okay, previously, uh, in the middle of 1990s, we have only the connectivity, that is the first phase of the internet, and in that connectivity phase we generally call it as a digitized access. We generally um, uh, up to email sending or web services, we are browsing so many web services, or we have utilized some web services in the mid 1990s. And search, so that information is easily accessed, like search engines. We have used search engines, and we were able to send messages or mails through the internet. And after that after that the next evaluation is network economy. So we thought that network or connectivity is used to communicate with each other, but the phase is evaluated to networked economy also, like your business, digitized access again. Okay, or digitized business, we can say. So it goes to like Flipkart, Amazon, and all. Online business, we have this online business we have done, or we have purchased so many objects and so many articles through the internet. like your home delivery, or some websites like Flipkart and Amazon. Next phase is immersive experiences like distant interactions. Under this phase, we have uh, experienced encompassed widespread video and social media while always being connected through the mobility. Right. Not we have not stick down to the only desktops and supercomputers, and we have utilized the internet on the mobility. Wherever you go, you can carry your internet along with your smartphone, so that you can utilize all the services of the internet. That has become the third phase, and and finally and finally, last phase or just present trend is Internet of Things. That is called digitized world. Okay, in this digitized world, all objects are connected, irrespective of their operating systems. And some objects may not be having any operating system, even though they are connected to the internet. That is why all the things, all the things which are not electrical uh, peripherals, other devices are also involved in internet. That's why we have called it Internet of Things. So, how many gadgets we are using person to person or per person, we'll see this is the rapid growth of utilizing the digital devices. Like in 2010, we have utilized 1.83 an average worldwide. See, we have compared the number of devices per person, like what is population of the world, that is up to 80 billion roughly, and in 2010 it is 10 billion, and 1.83 connected device per person was there, and in 2015 2.09. So it is exponentially increased. Even it is greater than the population. The electronic device or some other things or smart objects are exponentially increased when compared to the population. See, we are expecting, or some research community is expecting, in 2025, it is 9 times greater than the world's population. It may reach 70 million. Now, we can expect 3.96, around 4 gadgets we are using, like your smartphones, smart watches, and smart Googles, and laptop also. So, 4 we are using. Our Bluetooth devices are also connected to the internet. On an average, we are using 4 electronic devices or some Internet of Things. Okay, this is the IoT and this decision impact of IoT. What is impact of IoT? We have seen. What is the interesting part? How many devices we are handling? All those devices or all those objects are connected to the internet. That is the beauty of Internet of Things. See, imagine one object is communicating with other objects uh, in absence of human being, and it is operational. It is operational, like in a systematic way. For example, if you take any smart kitchen or smart office, and no need to think about the articles which are present in your office, and after completion of your conference meeting, if you go outside of the outside of the conference hall, automatically they are arranging their positions. They are going to uh, they are going to sit in their proper positions. So how they are getting communicated, and if the lights are switched on and they are getting off, how these are communicating with each other. So this is the beauty of Internet of Things, and it is possible only with a technology like Internet of Things. See, what are the challenges? What are the challenges in IoT? So, scalability. See, some network we are forming, and if you want to maintain the scalability, means you can add more number of devices. Suppose 10 objects are connected together, and it is called as a network. Okay, now I want to add four more objects based on some application or requirements. So without any hesitation, without any hassle, uh, we need to get connected. We need to get connected all those four objects. So scalability is also a challenge, and we don't know which object is trying to connect with all the devices. So what are their properties, and what operating system, whether the object is having any operating system or not, or if it is having an operating system, whether it is compatibility, it is having any compatibility with the existing network. Everything will be checked, and it must be added to the existing network. Okay, so this is the challenging of IoT. First challenging, and come to security part. More or less all the objects are getting connected to the internet, so that there is a chance of hacking or hijacking all the objects, or few objects which are not having any security features. If it is if it is having any less significance, there is no problem. If the object is holding some important information or important data, if it is compromised by the third party, it will be difficult. So we need to maintain the security in the IoTs also. Okay. Now, privacy is maintained with a key management system like your private key, public key, with zero trust network feature, and blockchain are rapidly addressing the privacy and trust with security features. Okay, interoperability. Interoperable module components supports heterogeneous applications or heterogeneous objects. As I said, irrespective of the operating system, I said, but generally all the objects are using the same operating system, then it is called a homogeneous. Everybody knows that. And interoperability of heterogeneous systems. So it will be having different configurations. So even though it is having various configurations, and they must be connected, and comfortably they have to communicate with each other. So that is, interoperability is also an IoT challenges. And energy efficiency. This is the important phase or important challenge in IoT. Developing energy efficient routing protocols to reduce the number of hops means, if you reduce the number of hops, it means that under quality of service, you are providing or you are reducing the delay of sending the packets in between the nodes. Next, optimizing communication link status and adopting wake sleep strategies based on network traffic. These are the techniques to save the energy as well. Two ways are there. What is the first one? We are reducing the delay in sending the packets, as well as we are reducing the energy consumption of the smart objects. So these are the few challenges. A lot more challenges are there in IoTs, but we have discussed. We are just mentioned the key or basic challenges of IoTs. Now IoT reference model. So we are having some architecture. So what is the main thing of reference model? What are the major objectives of IoT reference model? Why it is required? We need to discuss under IoT reference model. Whether it is definitely required for the network, or just how it is important, we'll discuss. So we know that some reference model on computer networks, that is OSI, ISO's OSI reference model, which is having 7 layers, and we know what are the importance of each layer and why what is the importance of layering or reference model. Okay, main objective is to uh, decompose the major problem into sub-problems, and each sub-problem will be given to its respective layers so that it will functional. It will be functional, and it will be functional systematically. Okay, so identify different technologies at each layer. Sometimes we generally call it as a protocol, and how they related to one another. So next, define system in which different parts can be provided by different vendors. So based on the vendors, the reference model will be used to create a new model for their application. We are just checking the reference model, and we are creating a new model based on the vendor's requirements. Okay. How we are going to do that, we'll discuss in the next slide. Next, have a process of defining interfaces that leads to interoperability. Okay. Some objects may not start from the bottom layer and directly it will be involved in some other layer. Okay. Uh, so in that case, uh, that uh, that network must be functional, right? So that is called interoperability, right? Next, define a tied security model that is enforced at the transition points between levels. Okay. In- with these basic objectives, IoT reference model is developed. IoT reference model is developed like this. Okay. So what are the stages or what are the levels or what are the layers involved in IoT reference model? Here also we are using 7 layers. What is that? Physical device and controllers, connectivity, edge or fog computing, and data accumulation, data abstraction, application, and collaboration and process. Okay. So in physical device and controllers layer, the IoT reference model is a physical device and control layer. This is the first one. Is a home to the things in the Internet of Things, which can accommodate all the objects in a physical at first layer, including the various endpoint devices and sensors that send and receive information in the starting layer. Now, the size of these things can range from almost microscopic sensors to giant machine in a factory. Not only our electronic systems, we can operate uh, a very big machinery in the factory. Okay. Next, come to the connectivity layer. Connectivity layer functionality is communication and processing units. Okay. Most important function of this IoT layer is the reliability and timely transmission of data. More specifically, this includes transmission between layer 1 devices and the network and between the network information processing that occurs at layer 3 as your OSI reference model. So this will be acting as interface between the physical device or first layer and the third layer. Now, the connectivity layer encompasses all networking elements of IoT and doesn't really distinguish between the last mile network, or some gateway and backhaul networks. Functions of the connectivity layer are functions of the uh, connectivity layer are shown in connectivity layer like this. Communications between layer 1 devices, reliable delivery of information across the network, switching and routing, translation between protocols, network layer network level security. So these are the basic functionalities of the layer called connectivity. Yeah. Now come to the third layer. That is edge computing layer. Under edge computing layer, uh, generally it is called as a fog layer. Okay. At this layer, the emphasis is on data reduction and converting network data flows into information that is ready for the storage and processing by the higher layers. Okay, that is data reduction and converting network data flows into information that is ready for the storage and processing by the higher layers. One of the basic principles of this reference model is that information processing is initiated as early and as close to the edge of the network as possible. Okay, the limitations are the functions of the layer 3. Functions of the layer 3 are evaluate and reformat data for processing at higher levels. Next, filter data to reduce traffic level and traffic higher level processing. Next, third one is access data for altering notification or other actions. So these are the basic functionalities of the edge computing. And see, these are the data packets we are sending here. It is communicating with the upper layer. Edge or fog computing is communicating with the upper layer, and these data packets are in router evaluate and reformat data pre-processing are processing at higher levels, or filter data reduce traffic higher level. So higher level processing, access data, or altering notification or other actions. Most of the challenges will be covered in edge computing or fog computing under IoT reference model. Now, see, basic functionalities of 4 to 7 layers are described in this table. Like layer 4, it is a data communication layer, data accumulation layer. So it captures data, stores it so it is usable by applications when necessary, converts event-based data to query-based processing. So it is handling the data with the help of your database. And a layer 5 data abstraction layer reconciles multiple data formats and ensures consistent semantics from various sources, confirms that the data set is complete, and consolidates data into one place or multiple data stores using virtualization. So this is the abstraction layer. Okay, and application layer, which is your user layer, interprets data using software applications. Applications may monitor, control, and provide reports based on the analysis of the data by the user or the vendor. And a collaboration and process layer consumes and shares application information. Collaborating on communication IoT information often requires multiple steps, and it is what makes IoT useful. This layer can change business process and delivers the benefits of IoT. Okay, these are the basic 7 layers or reference models, IoT reference model. And based on these reference model, some layers may be merged to simplify the IoT model. Like your data accumulation and data abstraction layer, these are working on the data. These are the working, just checking whether the data is proper or not. Okay, whether it is complete or not, it is consolidated or not. And this, after this phase, this may be used with your database systems, like any SQL queries or any DBMS techniques will be there. These 2 layers may be combined, and application layer and collaboration and process layer may be combined. Some functionality may be added to this application layer based on the vendor requirements. Now, this is a simple IoT architecture, and we have taken some sensors and actuators as the first layer, physical layer, and the second one is IoT devices, and we have uh, given as a connectivity layer and edge computing. Okay, next, IoT gateway is there. It is communicating with the IoT backend with the help of internet and some devices directly connected with the backend. And these are having various layers and uh, for the big data, how to handle the IoT data we have discussed, uh, which is gathered by the sensors and actuators from the local environment, and it is collected some information and it will be sent, yeah, and it will be shared with us some other devices, and it will reach to the IoT backend, which stores the information of the previous history. Okay, sensors and actuators, these are connected to IoT device, IoT communication. Next, IoT data handling. Every IoT device will be having basic steps like IoT process, automation, and IoT resource management and IoT communication. So this is IoT is handled all these three processes in a IoT device. So few IoT devices are connected to this physical device and controllers. Next, it is connected to some IoT gateway, which is having uh, routing capability in this IoT gateway. Now, it is connected to the IoT backend. Whatever the information is gathered by the sensors or actuators, and this information will be stored in the IoT backend. Okay. See, yeah. What here under this architecture, we are going to discuss about the smart object and how those objects are getting connected, and what are the protocols we are going to discuss. Excuse me. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Some smart objects. What are those smart objects? Generally, we call sensors, actuators, or the smart objects, or which object can be communicated with, or which object can be a part of internet will be called a smart object. Okay. Uh, Next, sensor networks. Sensor networks we are going to discuss. And what is the functionality of this sensor? Okay. So what are the basic characteristics of the smart object when we call it as a smart object? See, this this a panel will, let us think assume this as a panel of smart object, and it will be having some CPU, which is having low cost computer embedded into objects to make them smart, can be organized into networks. Okay, this will be having a very little amount of capability of uh, computation, and memory, it is also very less, and it is having a sense ability of performing a task like charge traffic lights, remote, or rotate a mirror, or control the home automation, or control the home uh, like home objects like your ACs and TVs. Actuators are used to perform some tasks on this. Next, communication device, which receives the instructions or sends or routes data self-organized. It this is very important part, uh, as your similar, as your previous characters. Communication device is very much important. Why? Because every sensor or every actuator will be having its own work. After aggregation of this data, it must be transferred to some other object or to the base station or to your mobile, which is acting as a base station to control all the objects of your home. If this device is not functional, it is of not use. It's of no use. Next, it is having a power source uh, which is having a limited battery. The main work will be main research is also going on in this area, like your power source. Okay, how to save the energy of the smart objects to work for a long time. Okay, and this is also involved to communicate efficiently in terms of quality of service, like your communication device. So these two portions are attracted all the researchers or most of the researchers of IoTs. Okay, these are the basic characteristics of the smart objects. Uh, Let me repeat once again. It should have the power source like your battery or um, energy harvested power, energy harvested power, or and sensors, actuators, and or to embed all these four characters, we need to have a tiny low-cost computer. These are the basic characteristics of smart objects. Okay, basic trends in smart objects. What we are looking for. Size is decreasing of the smart objects. This is necessary. Mm, like your desktop computers have become your laptops, and laptops have become your palm tops or mobile phones. Now, similarly, the size is getting decreased in the area of microelectromechanical systems. There's a clear trend of ever decreasing size. Always we focus on the size of the smart object, which comes under the layer, physical layer. Some smart objects are so small they are not even visible to the naked eye, right? Like your uh, dust particles which are used in your battlefields, because if it is visible to the opponents, they may destroy or they may compromise those objects uh, for their purpose. Okay, that's why we are making very tiny, which cannot be visible to the other persons, and it has to gather the information and it has to pass information to the mm, to our own army, and that must not be compromised. And so that security issues also involved if you go to the defense. Now, come to the second trend, power consumption is decreasing. And if you consume more power, if you consume more power for functionality of the smart objects, it may not give or it may not serve so much, it may not serve longer time to the defense. Okay. So the different hardware components of smart object continually consumes less power as many sensors are completely passive. This is very much important uh, to make the smart object very active for a longer time. Some battery powered sensors last 10 or more years without battery replacement. So this is the beauty of the uh, latest trend in IoT. So some battery powered sensors last 10 or more years without battery replacement. It is working for 10 years. It is really amazing, right? Okay. And if you utilize some batteries with the natural resource like your solar system, it provides um, longer period, and are infinite power, well battery. Next, processing power is increasing. Processing power is increasing. This is a capability we have increased, even though we are having a small device like your mobile phones. We can run your, you know, we can run your programs, lab programs, or some research simulations in your palm top with the help of example Google Colab. Okay, that is having the capability, right? Some computational capability it is having, and the capability must be increased in a future days. So it is also a challenging research area in IoT. Next, the next trend is communication capabilities are improving. Communication capabilities are improving. Improving in terms of delay and uh, loss, I mean, decrease packet loss, right? So under quality of service, this will come, right? Like wireless speeds are continually increasing, but they're also increasing in the range. IoT is driving the development of more and more specialization communication protocols covering a greater diversity of use cases and environments. Okay. Previously, we have utilized the service of the network speed in um, bits per second. Now it has drastically increased to some multiples of 10 Mbps, right? Now the same type of capability, same capability may be come to IoT, which is having a less communication capability, but gradually the speed is getting increased in IoT to give a best service to the user. And next, communication is being increasingly standardized. Is being increasingly standardized. There is a strong push in the industry to develop open standards for IoT communication protocols. IoT communication protocols must be very flexible so that every user or every human being can utilize IoT services without any flaw. So this is again the latest trend. Now, if you observe your mobile phone, everybody are who are not having much knowledge on computers or some digitized world, they are also operating internet without any difficulty. Of course, small difficulty they are facing, but anyhow they are utilizing the services of web services, right? So, and it is getting increased. This also a very interesting research area. Communication is being increasingly standardized. Standardized protocols we are utilizing. If you talk about the technical, routing protocols are fault tolerance. Fault tolerance are also uh, comes under standardization of IoT. Okay. Next. Now, sensor networks. We have discussed about smart objects. Under smart object, we have taken one sensor, any sensor which is having some characteristics like your sensor, next actuator and communication. Okay, next battery. All these comes for this sensor also, because sensor is also one of the smart object, right? So what are the network of sensors? Sensor network, collection of networks, collection of sensors which can communicate each other, and the message can be passed to the base station with the help of or without the help of any intermediate nodes. Okay, so if we form a sensor network, what are the advantage of this sensor networks? So sensors will be having a greater deployment flexibility. Means if you uh, place sensors in one place of homogeneous or heterogeneous, it is having the capability of self-organizing networks. Okay, so you can deploy these sensors even in a harsh environment, right? Like hard to reach places. You can place there and no need to install that separately. Directly you can place wherever you want to monitor, which area you want to monitor. You can place all the sensors in the net in the target area, and you can operate that network with your base station. Okay. Next, simpler scaling to large number of nodes. Okay. It is having the wonderful capability of adding so many sensors, even though they have not involved in a previous network. Like if the previous network is having a 50 sensor nodes network, and if you want to add 50 more sensors to the same network to area, monitor the area directly, you can add 15 sensors so that because of its self-organizing nature, all these 50 sensors will be getting communicated or getting connected, and it will form a new sensor network. So that is the beauty of this sensor network. Okay, lower implementation costs. It is having the cost of the sensors is very less, easier long-term maintenance, effortless introduction of new sensors or actuator nodes, better equipped to handle dynamic or rapid topology changes. Like as I have said, 50 sensor nodes will form a topological network, and if you add 50 more, so it is a dynamic. The network has been changed dynamically, or the topology also will be changed. So the disadvantages of these sensor networks are potentially less secure. Means it may not be having some secure protocols, like it can be compromised by the opponent, like it can be hijacked by the third party, a third person. Okay, that is a major disadvantage, and typically low transmission speeds. So uh, because of this uh, lower transmission speeds, we need to develop some routing protocols to reduce the delay. If the lower transmission speed is there, but if it reaches more number of hops, so that uh, the delay will be increased, right? If you reduce the number of hops, then uh, energy consumption will be more, because the energy consumption depends on the destination node, right? So this is also a disadvantage. Next, greater level of impact are influenced by environment. Okay, so based on some environment, the sensor networks may be damaged, right? Right. So these are the sensor networks advantages and disadvantages. Next, design constraints for wireless smart objects. Okay, under sensor networks, we are having some constraints for wireless smart objects. Okay, it is similar to your smart objects. Okay, it is similar to your smart object. Now, moderate CPU power, low memory, lossy communications, narrowband media, and this power consumption is critical, obviously. Like here, if you compare the uh, previous uh, previous figure of smart object, moderate CPU power minimize energy use. So CPU power must be lesser. Means we should not use uh, the CPU, and I mean greater. We should not use greatly the CPU power or CPU, so that the energy will be reduced, energy consumption will be reduced. Next, it is having a low memory. This is again a constraint. This is a drawback of the sensor networks. And lossy communications. Lossy communication means is having a less uh, transmission power, and if the distance is more, obviously that will be communication may be lost. Okay, because which protocol we are using, IEEE 802.1 2.15.4. Also, uh, powerline communications like IEEE P1902.1 and narrowband media, which is the speed of 250 kilobytes per second. This is lower rates than not. Okay, power consumption is critical if you are using some battery power. And so these four are moderate. All these five are various research challenges in your sensor networks. Okay. Next, some of the most significant limitations of the smart objects in wireless sensor networks is limited processing power, just we have discussed, and limited memory and lossy communication, limited transmission speeds, and limited power. So in the previous figure, we have discussed all these limitations. Next. Yeah. Now, we have discussed what is a smart object and what are the characteristics of that. What are the limitations of sensors? Now, how we are going to communicate or how we are going to connect these smart objects. Uh, IoT device and sensor must be connected to the network for their data to be utilized. Whatever the data they are getting, they are collecting the information that must be utilized by the society. Now, these are the communication criteria, or range, signal propagation and distance. These are the communications criteria. Main criteria is frequency bands, licensed and unlicensed spectrum. Right. Next, topology. Next, constrained devices. And topology is supported for connecting multiple smart objects. Constrained devices, limitations of the certain smart objects from a connectivity perspective. Okay. Now, if you observe, so many objects we are seeing in our daily life, and most of the objects not connected to the internet. Only 6% of the objects are connected to the internet, like your survey says that. Okay. So, lot of work is remained in the area of IoT. In the area of IoT. Right. Now, if you discuss about constrained node network, challenges with network connecting smart objects, we will discuss about the challenges. Next, data rate and throughput. Data rate and throughput, it is ranging from 100 bits per second with protocols like Sigfox to tens of Mbps protocols. Like your 10 Mbps or 100 Mbps or 1000 Mbps, sometimes protocols like LTE and IEEE 802.11 AC, which is wireless communication. Okay. Next, under range, we have divided this range into three portions, like the short range, medium range, and long range. Under short range, we are using Bluetooth, and in medium range, Zigbee protocols are 802.15.4. GRE versions are the 802.15.4, or some P1901.2, and a medium range. Okay, and some Wi-Fi also comes under long range or sometimes medium range. It is it depends no, but 2G, 3G, 4G, or 5G comes under a long range. Okay, so these are the examples of the short range, medium range, and long range. Short range is for Bluetooth, and medium range are for like Zigbee. See, Zigbee 802.15.4 and 802.15.4 GRE versions are used in IoT devices mostly, so which is having the limitation of medium range. And in long range, the IoT has to reach to this long range like 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G range must be reached. So that is the challenge. And next, frequency bands. Okay, in your frequency bands, licensed or unlicensed spectrum are there. 2.4 GHz band is used as IEEE 802.11. This is licensed one, and 802.15.1. This is a Bluetooth. Generally, we call it as a Bluetooth, and 802.15.4, that is wireless personal area network, we generally call it. And so these are having the limitations, right? Now, next, power consumptions. We have discussed how much power is getting consumed by the smart objects. Consideration for device connected to a stable power source compared to those that are battery powered. Okay, so these are the communications criteria, and let me go forward as the time is very less for this. The following topics need to be addressed for each IoT access technology: standardization and alliances. These are the physical layer, MAC layer, topology, security, competitive technology. These are the IoT access technologies. Okay, we will discuss this at the end if the time permits us, and we'll go forward. This standardization and alliances is, if you take one example like IEEE 802.15.4, maybe the alliance for 802.15.5. Is it, uh, is it right? Yeah, mostly. Next, in the physical layers, whether we are using wired or wireless methods and relevant frequencies. Okay, MAC layer. Okay, medium access control layer will be physical layer with the data link control. See this data link control, and topology is supported by the technology. Next, security aspects of the technology. It depends on the applications whether how much security is required. Okay, competitive technology. These are the basic see IEEE 802.15.4 and deployment. These are the useful applications of this particular uh, short range application, medium range application or IoT application. Home and building automation, that is medium range automotive networks, or industrial wireless sensor networks, which is connected together, interactive toys and remote controls. So these are the few examples of or few applications of uh, IEEE 802.15.4. Next, now after getting connected the smart objects, some protocols must be involved to make it functional, right? So what are the protocols we have in various layers or various levels, like your Zigbee 6LoWPAN uh, and Zigbee IP, ISA 100.11a, wireless HART thread. These are the protocols for used for various applications. Okay. Now we'll discuss about the Zigbee 6LoWPAN and Zigbee IP, and if time permits, we will discuss about ISA 111.8. What are the importance of Zigbee and what are the frame formats and message formats and header formats? We'll discuss about the Zigbee and Zigbee IP. What are the differences? What is the difference between Zigbee and Zigbee IP? Okay. Okay. This Zigbee protocol is having a basic structure or basic stack of physical layer and MAC layer, network and security layer, application support, and applications of profiles. These are the basic layers of the Zigbee protocol. Next, uh, see, this is providing a fair of interoperability for vendors with membership in the Zigbee Alliance. It is not provided interoperability with other IoT solutions. So this problem, other IoT solution, it is not giving any solution for the other IoT solutions, so that it is involving, it is evaluated to Zigbee IP. Zigbee IP. Okay. Here, IPv4 were used, and most of the applications may not be solved with this Zigbee protocol, right? So it is upgraded or updated to IPv6. Okay. See, same layer we are using here, IEEE 802.15.4 is for physical access, like same uh, same protocol, same yeah, protocol used here, 802.15.4 2006 physical layer. So 2006 version is used here, and this is adoption. This adoption in IPv6, ICMPv6 6LoWPAN ND. This will come under ZigBee platform stack. Okay. Next, ZigBee or vendor specific or user datagram protocol and transmission control protocol, and ZigBee IP is Smart Energy 2.0 profile. Okay. So, what is the frame format of physical frame format and MAC frame formats? We'll see. Okay. See, this is the ZigBee 802.15.4. It is having the header format like preamble and the start of frame delimiter as your message header seen in your computer networks. So, preamble right. And start of the delimiter synchronization header, it takes 5 bytes and 6 byte frame length is mentioned in the mentioned range of 1 byte. Okay. Now 0 to 127 bytes are physical service data unit PSDU is used 0 to 127 bytes. Okay. Next, MAC frame is converted like this. The same length, header length is same like physical frame, like preamble, how many bytes it is taking, total 6 bytes it is taking PHY frame or physical frame. And this service data unit is divided into various subfields like frame control, sequence number, destination PAN identifier, personal area network identifier, destination address, or source PAN identifier, source address, frame payload, and various ranges are there, various ranges of the fields of this MAC frame is there. Okay, frame payload and frame check sequence. This is the frame formats of the MAC layer. Okay. Next, come to this ZigBee topology and security format. Generally, all kinds of topologies are allowed in your IoT network, like your star topology, ring topology, or bus topology. Like PAN coordinator, it is having this topology will be having 3 different smart objects like PAN coordinator, personal area network coordinator, full function device, and reduced function device. Okay, so we can give more, many more examples for various types of device like PAN coordinator, personal area network coordinator, maybe your mobile phone, or some other extra device which can control all the smart objects of the home or automation. Okay. Next, this is the security frame format. It will be having total 9 fields like frame control, sequence number, destination PAN identifier. So up to here, this is security enabled bit in frame. Control is set to number 1. Control is set to number 1. Okay, this is MAC header, MAC payload, and MAC footer. Okay, complete. Okay, MAC header, MAC payload, and MAC footer is given here. This is in secure format. Okay. Next, 6LoWPAN. 6LoWPAN is having the protocol stack, IoT protocol stack, like working group is to optimize the transmission of IPv6 packets to improve the scalability of the network. We have utilized IPv6 services. So same 6LoWPAN header stacks are, this is compressors. Okay, previously 802.15.4, total 5 fields were there, and it is compressed to 3 fields like IPv6 header compression. That's why it is called 6-LoWPAN header stacks. Okay, so this is the header compression. How many bits are there? Please observe this number of bits, number of bytes may not change in the header, but the merging of fields, will be called a compression of header. Okay, 6-LoWPAN without header compression is IPv6, UDP, and payload. Here, 2 bytes are utilized to 6-LoWPAN header with compressed IPv6. Here, 6-LoWPAN header is only 1 byte. Next, 4B is for UDP, and remaining IPv6 and payload is added, added so that it is coming under 93. Okay, so under this 127 byte IEEE 802.15.4, only 4 fields will be there, mostly 5 fields will be there. Now, this is a fragmentation and the fragmentation header. We know the importance of fragmentation in computer networks. The same operations will be there, but based on the limitation or usage of smart objects, it is attracted, and the protocols almost similar. And I think we don't have much time to discuss about this fragmentation header and all. So please go through this one once. And IoT application layer protocols are devised to run on constrained nodes with a small compute footprint and are well adapted to the network bandwidth constraints. On cellular or satellite links are constrained to 6-LoWPAN networks. Next, constrained application protocol. These two are the application layer protocols. Okay. Next, constrained COAP, that is COAP, is having some message format which is having the IPv4 packet header format or IPv6 header format. Similar frame format is given here. So this is version, this is for T is for type, what type of message we are sending or receiving, and TKL, this is token length, and code, what code we are sending. So message ID detects duplication and unused packets or new packets. This identifies whether the message is duplicated or a new message we are sending or receiving. So this is payload, and we know this one is for broadcasting. This field, if you put all ones here, this is nothing but for broadcasting. So it is not for the person to or peer-to-peer communication. It is for the broadcast. Okay. Next, message queue telemetry transport. This is again on the application layer protocol. See, again the same frame format will be there. Variable header. These two are optional, and remaining length, message type. So message types are like 1 to 14 types are there. Connect, whether client to server, we are sending one request to connect with the server and a request to connect, and connect, this is to connect acknowledgement. Okay, and publish is to client to server or server to client to publish the message, and pushback or and that is publish acknowledgement. This is publish receive, right? So these 14 types of messages are there which are used in message queue telemetry transport. Yeah. Let us compare with these two application layer protocols like Factor. Main transport protocol is UDP is used in COAP, or MQTT, it is used TCP. Typical messaging is request and response. This is publish and subscribe, MQTT. Right? Effectiveness in LLMs are excellent. This is low or fair implementations pairing UDP with MQTT are better for LLMs. So this is low or fair, and the alternate for this is UDP with MQTT, right? Security is DTLS and SSL TLS, and communication model is one-to-one, many-to-many, and strength are lightweight and fast with low overhead and suitable for constrained networks. User RESTful model that is easy to port to, easy to parse and process for constrained devices, support for the multicasting asynchronous and asynchronous messages. And here we are using TCP and multiple quality of service options provided robust communications, simple management and scalability using a broker architecture. And a weakness is not as reliable as TCP because this will comes under the connection oriented connection, so that MQTT, so the application must ensure reliability. So here it provides some reliability. MQTT will be provide some reliability. It will not provide reliability. These are the basic protocols we have discussed. Okay, like in application layer, COAP versus MQTT. Now, after discussion of the protocols, we have left time with the 12 minutes. Right. So let me present my work after gathering all this information. All these protocols are used in my research work. So it is useful. It is useful for the industrial IoT. Okay. Generally, we are using some sensors for any industrial monitoring system. Okay. So here we have tried to address some hotspot problem. See, for example, this is a target area. This is a target area, and it is having some sensor nodes, and some energy harvested nodes are also deployed in this target area to improve the lifetime of the network. Okay, so among these normal sensor nodes, some sensor nodes will be selected as a cluster head based on some parameters, and all these clusters will collect some information from the member sensor nodes, which are closer to this cluster head, will form a cluster. See, I think it is visible to all. For example, is blue color star symbol, that will be cluster head, but previously it is a small normal sensor node. After some parameters, after some parameters, it will be considered as a cluster head. So all the member sensor node which are very close to this cluster will form the cluster. Okay, all the sensor nodes will connect to this cluster, and it forms the cluster. And similarly, so many number of clusters are formed. Now, the responsibility of the sensor node as well as the cluster, or sensor node will sense the information, local information, and gathers the local information, and it sends to the cluster head. The responsibility of the cluster head is it also sends the local information as well as the collects information from the member sensor nodes and aggregates it, and it makes a single packet, and it will send to the nearest energy harvested node. Okay, so if you don't deploy these energy harvested nodes, then if you apply single hop communication, farthest sensor node can communicate directly to this base station if it is within the communication range. If it is within the communication range, it depletes more energy when compared to this shortest distance, because energy consumption depends on the distance, I said in the previous explanation, right? So these farthest cluster heads will die faster, and if the cluster head is die, then the other sensor node will be acting as a cluster head of that particular cluster, right? Based on if it is having more residual energy and it is available to the more number of sensor nodes, then it will become the cluster head. Okay, now again, it is also far from this base station, so that it depletes its energy faster. So this is the disadvantage with the single hop communication. If you if you introduce your multi-hop communication, like this cluster will communicate this another cluster, and again this cluster which is closer to the base station uh, communicate to this one. So this will the nearest cluster will be overloaded, so that it depletes energy faster and it dies quickly. So if you use multi-hop communication, there will be a gap in between the active sensor nodes and the base station. This gap will be called as the hotspot area, right? This is called a hotspot problem. So how to reduce this one? If we are having, or if we are providing some uh, infinite uh, sensor nodes, energy sensor nodes. If the sensor node is having infinite energy, then this hotspot problem will be solved. That is our intention. That is our main idea. So we are utilizing some sensor nodes which are having the capability of recharging on its own with a natural resource like your solar. That's why we have placed some energy harvested sensor nodes, and this will take the responsibility of the cluster head to come to forward the information to the base station, so that it works for a long time. It runs for a longer time. Okay, so we have discussed about the hotspot problem and clustering and routing as an introduction. Next, which network model we have used in IIoT? Okay, some sensor nodes are deployed along with some energy harvested sensor nodes. Then it will become the heterogeneous networks, and we are placing some base station within the target area. Okay, so if you place some sensor nodes or energy harvested nodes or base station, and it is immovable. Next, some as a wireless network, the nodes do not have global information of the network. However, we consider that the nodes have the local information, level of residual energy, and the distance of its neighbor sensor nodes. Okay, we are getting information of the local sensor nodes information with the help of GPS or geographical information system. So many techniques are there to get the information, and we assume that the data gathering operation is divided into rounds. What are these rounds? One round is collecting local information by the sensor nodes and sending information to this cluster head, and that cluster head aggregates the information and sends to this base station via some intermediate nodes. If the information of all the cluster heads reach to the base station, it is called a round. Okay, so how many rounds it will run for? That is our lifetime of the network. In each round, all nodes collect the local data and send. So we have discussed now. Next, this is energy harvesting model. Okay, which model we have used for your simulation is see solar system, solar panel. See, in this model, the solar radiation is calculated from the angle between the sunlight and the solar panel. When the angle of sunlight from the normal to the solar panel is theta, the effective sunlight that shines on the solar panel is proportional to cos theta. All right. The angle theta depends on the time of the day from sunrise to sunset. And nighttime we are not considering it, because if there is a sunlight, there is a chance of getting or converting sunlight to the electrical power. Then the solar radiation is given daily peak solar hours with the equation PSH is equal to integration of cos theta with respect to T sunrise to T sunset. Okay, so solar panel which converts solar energy into electricity. Next, regulator which stipulates the output power of the solar panel, P solar. This is energy of the solar is how many peak solar hours are there into total P solar. Okay, that will give your E solution. energy of the solar collector. Okay, in general, P solar is set to 1 kilowatt per meter square. So this energy harvesting model we have used after deployment of energy harvested nodes in the target area. Next, in the fault model, means we have used fault tolerance also here. If some sensor nodes or energy harvested nodes are failed, how it will work? What is the impact of the network functionality? We have shown some simulations, right? So variable distribution we have used in fault model, which is a famous fault model to give the physical damages, right? See, f of t is equal to gamma by rho, that into t by rho power gamma minus 1 into e power minus t by rho is t by rho power gamma. So this is the variable distribution equation, and this is the reliability function. This is the reliability function, and here the failure rate is constant. Failure rate is constant when the shape parameter gamma is equal to 1. The gamma is equal to 1, and the failure rate is constant. So this is not okay, this is not it doesn't look reality. Increase when gamma greater than 1 and decrease when gamma less than 1. So failure rate may not be decreased or may not be constant. That's why for the failure of energy harvested sensors, we have considered gamma greater than 1. We have taken we have considered only energy harvested nodes failure. So this is the physical damage. So this physical damage of energy harvested nodes, so that we have gone for the variable distribution fault model. Okay. Next, energy consumption calculation, we have taken energy model. Okay. For the transmission, how many number of bits we are sending or receiving, and how much energy is consumed for a bit, plus how many number of messages are amplified, how much amount of energy it is consuming, into distance, how far it is there, exponential of beta, and it depends on the threshold value, right? E electric is the energy required by the electronic circuit, and EFS, and this is for free space, and it is used, EMP is used for the multipath in terms of E amplifier. If we are using E free space, energy for free space, the distance is within the threshold. If it is greater than the threshold, we are using the energy consumption of multipath, or the energy required by the amplifier. Is a free space and multiple space. When the distance is less than a threshold value D0, then the free space channel is used, beta is set to 2. Otherwise, the multipath channel is used and beta is set to 4. The energy required by the radio to receive k bit message is given by, this is almost same amount of energy it takes to receive the information. Same energy may be consumed to receive the information. Okay, we have discussed fault model, energy network model, and right, solar model. Next, this is the clustering algorithm. This sorry, yeah. After getting the models, we have gone to our proposed method. We have formed the clusters based on 3 parameters, that is residual energy and the distance and the average distance of the sensor nodes. Distance between the neighbor sensor nodes and the distance between energy harvested node. So which is having the highest weight, that will become the cluster. That was our idea. The next cluster head is selected with which has the next highest weight value. So after calculating the weight values of all the sensor nodes of the target area, which is having the highest weight value will become the cluster head, and second cluster head will become the second highest weight value sensor node. Up to 10% of the sensor nodes are will be selected as the cluster heads. Right. Next, we choose k number of cluster heads. Then generally percentage of cluster heads, percentage of sensor nodes. X percentage, maybe 10% of all sensor nodes will be selected as a cluster heads, right? Next, every cluster is assigned to its nearest plus energy harvesting node after formation of clusters. Okay, after selection of clusters, nearest sensor nodes will be uh, connected to the cluster head, right? Okay, then it will form the cluster. Next, cluster head will communicate only to the energy harvesting node. Okay, after formation of cluster, we are going for the routing protocol. How we are routed? So after collection of information from the all the clusters by the energy harvested node, then it routes uh, by using routing protocol, because we assume that energy harvested node is all having infinite amount of energy, but for some seasons it may not give solar hours, peak solar hours, right? And, that's why we are utilizing, or we are reducing the energy consumption of the energy harvested node as well, because of that, as I said now, right? How to do this? We are calculating again a weight function for the next hop energy harvested node based on the residual energy and the distance between energy harvested node to the next hop energy harvested node, and I mean neighbor harvested node. How many neighbor harvested nodes are there? That tells the energy harvested node of J. Suppose 4 energy harvested nodes are there, which are closer to the energy harvested node I. So which is having the highest weight, that will become the next hop. That will become the next hop of EHI. Okay. Now we are also calculating the distance. If in the EHI is closer and EHI is closer to the sink and EHJ is farther to the sink, and if EHI is closer to EHJ, there is no use of sending the information from EHI to EHJ. That's why we have considered the distance from EHJ to sink also. If the EHJ to sink is lesser, then we will select as a next hop. Okay. Next, we have deployed, we have given some cases like if the number of sensor nodes or number of cluster heads are equal to this energy harvested node, what will happen? If the number of energy harvested nodes are greater than the cluster heads, what will happen? If the number of cluster heads are lesser than the energy harvested nodes, or energy harvested nodes lesser than the clusters, what will happen? These 3 cases we have simulated, okay, with the help of some parameters, and we have found that if the number of clusters and energy harvested nodes are equal, then our proposed method gives a better result. And when next CHS are lesser than EH, then it will give the next performance, and EH greater than CS greater than EH, then it will give the poor performance when compared to the remaining cases. Okay, we have taken 250 sensor nodes and 500 sensor nodes, 750 and 1000 sensor nodes we have taken, and 10% of sensor nodes will be selected as a cluster heads. Next, how many number of rounds it has worked for, and lifetime is calculated up to 30% of the sensor nodes dead. If 30% of sensor nodes dead, then we say that is the lifetime of the network. So it is defined like that: first node dead or last node dead, some percentage of nodes dead. These are the 3 definitions of the network lifetime. Okay, 250 to 500 to 750 and 1000. Even though we have increased number of sensor nodes in the area, because of this density, the performance is reduced in all 3 cases. Okay, if it is not fully dense, then the performance is high. It has gone for 3000 rounds. If you increase number of sensor nodes, and then the overload of the clusters will be high, so that the performance is very poor. So optimization is required here, and it is a future future idea, I mean future work, how to give optimization of deployed sensor nodes. Okay, this is the case analysis for the network lifetime. Now we have also given the number of dead sensor nodes. Okay, we have given up to last node dead. Okay, right? Number of dead sensor nodes, how many dead sensor nodes are there, and which is giving a better performance. Okay, so in 250 sensor nodes, if you deploy 250 sensor nodes, and how far this green color is, this is giving the better performance, right? As we see, this case is when clustered is equal to LS energy harvested nodes. Okay, if you deploy 500 sensor nodes, again it is giving a better performance. In all these 4 cases, 4 deployment models, only one case, that is CH is equal to energy harvested node, is giving the better results. Okay, in terms of dead sensor nodes, we have also compared our own method with in terms of energy of the network, residual energy of the network. See, again, residual energy is which is having a high. See, this blue color is energy. CH number of clusters is equal to number of energy harvested nodes. So this is having the highest residual energy in 250 sensor nodes, and in 1000, if you deploy 1000 sensor nodes also, it is giving the better results. Okay, these 3 case studies we have done for our proposed method, and we have also compared with the existing method, like energy harvested energy harvested works. Okay, it is better than a few existing algorithms. Okay, this is used for more industrial IoTs. Okay, it depends on applications. We will modify this work based on the applications, and we have to keep in mind that we are maintaining architecture, we are maintaining connectivity, and we are also following some protocols, layer-wise protocols, and we have worked mainly on network layer, like cluster formations and routing. These 2 basic ideas we have done in our method. Yeah, finally we have come to an end. This is the last topic. If you have any doubts, you can raise, please.
Yeah, participants, any queries you can ask, sir.
Yes, Nagaraju sir has raised a hand.
Okay. Nagaraj sir, please post your query. Srikanth sir, can you unmute your video, sir, to take some photos?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Meanwhile, participants, if you have any queries, you can ask Srikanth sir. Sir is ready to answer.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Please proceed.
So, as per protocol, varies with the application or not? 4 types of protocols told me that whether the protocols differ with application or not. Hello.
Yes, sir. It depends on the application, sir. Okay. These are the reference protocols we have mentioned. Based on the application,
in which one-to-one mapping between protocol and application, which protocol is used for that application, or what protocol this second is used for, what types of application we can use?
Sir, you're talking about the application layer protocol, sir?
Yeah, I'm asking for that one protocol is required, which types of application, second protocol is required, which types of application?
Sir, we have discussed about MAC layer protocols, 6LoWPAN or ZigBee protocols. So that can be used for any other protocols, but based on applications, we are using two protocols, right, sir? One is what is that, sir?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this COAP, Constrained Application Protocol, is used, and MQTT is used. If it is wireless communication, then
Okay,
we have gone for this
okay, thank you.
COAP, and MQTT is for the connection.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any queries from participants so that sir can answer? Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your valuable time spending with us. Sir explained IoT protocols, industrial IoT, and advanced energy harvesting systems for network lifetime in IIoT, that is industrial IoT. And sir also explained different system models, and sir given overview of research proposals also. That is how to hosting a problem, clustering, routing, so different proposals, research proposals also explained. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for being with us, spending valuable time with us. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, and congratulations to all the coordinators of this FTP, especially Dr. Bandi Krishna sir has given me this wonderful opportunity, and head of the department, Professor Janaki ma'am, and principals. I'm really happy to share my little knowledge to all the participants, and thank you all the participants for your patience listening.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
so
much.
much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Right, sir.
Yeah. Participants, the next session by Mr. P. Rajkumar, sir. Please take only 2 minutes break and we'll come back. So because already 11:45. Yeah, please stay. Okay.